Hey, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever part of the world you're joining from. This is In Conversation with Again, and today we have our dear panelist from first podcast, Mahesh, and Ankur is joining us here as well. He is
Hi
our,
everyone.
hey, hi Mahesh,
Hi Naval. Hi Ankur.
hi Ankur.
Hi, Mahesh. Hi, Naval. Thank you for this beautiful introduction. A very big hello to all the audience here.
Hi Ankur. So let me begin by introducing Ankur to you, dear listeners. Ankur is a digital marketer by passion first and then profession. He has worked in digital marketing domain for over a decade across different verticals, and he feels there's an immense potential in the way digital marketing can be leveraged for holistic development of a brand than just achieving one-off objectives. He is active on LinkedIn. He can be reached at www.linkedin.in/in/Ankur Pandey. It's Ankur with A double N. And we have Mahesh as well, as you would be knowing from the first podcast. Mahesh has nearly 2 decades of experience as a developer, as a technology mentor for everyone. And as you remember, I met him at the LinkedIn suggested people to talk to, and we just resonated there, and we thought, let's convert our ideas into an audio podcast. He can also be reached at LinkedIn at www.linkedin.in/Mahesh Sheshadri, Twitter at Mahesh Sheshadri, and at his website www.maheshsheshadri.com. Thank you, dear guests. Today's topic, as you know, is focused on digital marketplace. And I believe marketplace is a place where both buyers and sellers come together. They have the willingness and ability to buy and sell. And the marketplace itself is an enabler. It enables them to do the transactions very quickly and efficiently. So can we start by getting a good example of a marketplace that you consider as a very healthy and fine ecosystem of buyers and sellers? And then we'll start a discussion from there.
Okay, so let me take a shot at this. Naval.
Sure, Ankur.
According to me, App Store and Google Play are by far one of the best digital application marketplaces that I have seen. And the whole objective or the value creation that these platforms do for all the stakeholders involved, right from your users to the owners and the third-party developers, is immense, right? So, right from creating a support system for the developers to host and publish their apps, to managing their end-to-end logistics, payment, uh, payment support, and garnering reviews and authenticating or validating the whole application per se. It's an amazing modalities or the way it operates, right? So for me, if you ask me, App Store and Google Play is gonna be taking the lead with respect to the marketplaces.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah. And my earliest experiences of a marketplace happened to be when I was building my own website in one of my earlier organizations, and that was my first exposure to how the potential of a marketplace can be really immense. Wherein we were building a website through using WordPress, and Envato was happened to be one of the marketplace where we could get a lot of your WordPress themes. And it was through that marketplace I understood there were a lot of developers who are showcasing their themes over there, which we can rate, read reviews about, and even purchase. And in fact, our website was built through one of the themes through Envato. So, as from a developer point of view, Envato would be a great place where you can showcase, develop, and put your WordPress themes over there. Yeah. Right.
Perfect, Ankur. Perfect, Mahesh, as well. So, Ankur, let us dip into your rich experience in interacting with online marketplaces or uh, websites or systems. How do you define a healthy marketplace, a vibrant marketplace? How do you can you give us an example from your experience? That will be really helpful.
For me, if you ask me, Naval, the basic parameter that I assess a healthy marketplace is that suppose a small-time developer or first-time developer comes in on the App Store and start monetizing from the shortest possible timeline. So that for me is gonna be one of the criteria how I'll assess a platform. Having said that, given the quantum or uh, the the number of stakeholders involved, it's not an easy game, right? And that's where marketers like us come into the play, where we deploy a lot of optimization techniques, like how you do your search engine optimization for your websites, or or on the desktops or the browser platform. Similarly, on the app store, there is a technique called app store optimization, so shortly termed as ASO. So that is where a lot of these brands or the small time developers reach out to marketers like us and say, hey, how can I how can I build searchability on an app store? And this, of course, is substantiated with a lot of user-driven reviews. The hygiene factor, right from how you display your app functionality using screenshots or probably a short video, and so on and so forth. And of course, the robustness and the quality of the platform you are being associated with. So that's the reason I said, considering App Store and Google Play, the way it works. And of course, Apple takes the lead because a lot of developers I know personally uh, in this regard have told me that it's far more easier to get your app published on Google Play than it is on Apple. So of course, we all know that how these both platforms work, and of course, Apple for me takes the lead in this.
Okay. Okay. So Mahesh, a very good point made by Ankur here, that you need to have searchability. People need to know that you exist and you're doing a good job for to come in and try your services or application. So from a developer, when you are in a whiteboard moment, when you just have an idea, how do you advise a developer to go ahead and try a couple of techniques or tools himself or herself, and come to that phase where they can host their apps and take it ahead?
It's about, I would point out how well they collaborate and get feedback from each other. And of course, I'm sure every developer knows about the strength of a GitHub today, right? So it's about how they start exercising their potential or competencies in terms of their apps or code bases, put it up on GitHub, get their credibility built through GitHub, yeah, and then take it into an app store. Yeah, the journey should start over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so the quality of content and the application itself, you believe, is very much essential when it comes to bringing the product up there, and definitely collaboration to highlight.
Collaboration will lead to you getting your credibility built, because you're not a single developer like the good old days. You are a developer who is being reviewed, assessed by peer developers, people who are competent across the world, people who are going to review the potential of your which could be a module or an app, yeah, and then that will connect you to posting credible apps or code bases on an app store or whatever, yeah.
Right. So, and Ankur, here you mentioned that how essential it is to be optimized for an app to be on a marketplace. Can you give us an example of an app or a company who benefited a lot? And it's a kind of a demand and supply game, isn't it? If you have a good marketing or an approach way for people to come and know about you, definitely, and your content, as Mahesh mentioned, is good, definitely the vibes would be better, and it would be a virtuous cycle. You would get more viewers, and then you'd be able to monetize it.
Yeah, so Naval, if you ask me, let us look at it in different stages, right? So as a developer, my main focus should be on developing a kick-ass app, right? Having said that, the ecosystem is actually giving me a platform to do that. So for example, the SDKs or the APIs that you have access to on app stores like Apple or Google's, it basically allows you to have a robust, infrastructurally supported ecosystem where you can build kick-ass apps. Once you do that, it's about going up there and letting people know that you're there, right? Now that is one part of publishing. The second layer, according to me, comes where, for example, there are millions and millions of audience there, right? And how do you focus or how do you cut the clutter as long as your reach is required? So for example, suppose you're building an app uh, for an example, I'm just taking, say, a Telugu speaking audience, right? So it's ideally sensible to have a vernacular version of the description or the text that put up there, right? So that it's obvious for the people that it is made for that kind of an audience, or that's the segment they are trying to achieve. Then, as I was mentioning about the reviews piece, right? Reviews, according to me, if you ask me, are more often than not paid or biased, or at least for an app store, it's seldom that people will actually give a great rating to your app. The ratings mostly that you see which are positive are from the people either who are gratified to do so, and that's, I'm saying, from my personal experience, because as a marketer I have known brands. uh, we used to set up uh, a reviewer community, so to get better ratings and thus increasing or building better searchability. So those are separate things. So that's what now. So I think there are different layers to what we have to look at it in totality, right from developing the app to taking to or building searchability of that particular app on an ecosystem like an app store.
And so a question to Mahesh first. So how does the platform mature in its evolution? For example, a matured platform or an ecosystem, does it have enough for everyone to have the sustenance by posting apps, or does it, and then I will definitely go to Ankur again, or does it become a monopoly or oligopoly where there are 2 or 3 large companies who are creating major apps and getting more traction there? Or what is a matured platform?
Ankur, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, sure, Ankur. Would you want to take this one?
I think it, at the end of it, the owners or the digital marketplaces owner like Google or Apple has to look at it as creating a level playing field. So irrespective of what lineage of my or my brand equity I have outside, but on the platform actually I'm building something which is useful for the end user. So that has to be a level playing field. So how that can be done is that having an equal opportunity uh, for everyone to use the same set of APIs or the infrastructure that we talk about, and giving equal amount of opportunity of getting in front of the people. So the thing is, the more the unbiased the platform is, the better it is for all the stakeholders, is what I feel. And this is not only applicable for a digital application marketplace, for any marketplace. The platform has to be unbiased. So I started my career. Sorry, Mahesh, you want?
Yeah. So what you're trying to say, Ankur, is it's like a common set of rules which the marketplace has, and which could be applicable not just for a developer marketplace. It could also be for a normal marketplace like an Amazon itself, right? Yeah. So wherein the buyers and sellers are, sellers are driven by a common set of rules, which makes them showcase their products or services complying to those rules, right? So that it becomes a level playing field for any kind of a seller, be it big or small.
Absolutely, Mahesh. Absolutely. Right? So the compliance and the protocol piece is very important. As I was actually mentioning that when I started my digital marketing career in way back in 2004, we were actually I was associated with a portal which was very similar to what Money Control does. And I was fortunate enough to basically had an opportunity to build that portal from the scratch. So now the basic protocol or the compliance thing that we agreed was, since it's going to be a financial research portal, let's be unbiased towards any analyst that we are associated with. So if it's a big broking house like Motilal Oswal or KR Choksi, you used to give them the same amount of importance or the space or the way it was.
Yes. Hey, Ankur. So I guess the platform maturity is the area you were focusing on. So yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I was actually telling about that for a good platform, uh, you know, to flourish in this economy, it is important that the it creates an advantageous position for all the stakeholders involved. So, as I was giving an example of my stint with the startup, which was similar to Money Control, it was a financial research portal, and we used to give the same importance to a big broking house like Motilal Oswal or KR Choksi's of the world, to as we would give it to an individual fundamental or a technical analyst. So it's very important that as a portal or as a mediator, platform mediator, I take an unbiased stance. That was a point I was trying to make in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So my question over here, or I think I'm opening up a debate. Who takes the ownership of creating such an marketplace driven by strong ethics, driven by compliance? Who takes the ownership? Is it the actors or the role players who are probably selling and buying, or the people who are owning the marketplace? Who drives the ethics and the
So
rule?
look at it in this way, Mahesh. It
Mhm.
is so. If I were to give an analogy, let's figure out a community, right? So we create a community.
Okay.
Now there is a community is nothing but another marketplace where information is basically exchanged.
Mhm.
Having said that, the community has to have a strong moderator for it to basically sustain for a longer period of time.
Mhm.
Right from getting the right set of interactions happening to
Mhm.
ensuring that the decorum is maintained,
Mhm.
all so on and so forth. So ultimately, if your question is who takes the ownership, I think the platform owner has should take the ownership to moderate and ensure that everything is whatever interactions or the transactions are happening are compliant in a way.
Right. Right. Right.
So,
Naval, what about you? How about you? Because we also know we have Play Store, we have marketplaces for
mhm,
for example, we know about the House of Bots, wherein people
mhm.
can took their developed chatbots up
Yeah,
for the market.
yeah,
So, in such a place, do you think the developers have anything to do with how well they follow the rules, follow the ethics? Do you feel the developers can also own some amount of role over here?
yeah. That's a very good point here, Mahesh. So
Hello.
when I see a developer creating an application either on
Yeah.
a marketplace or just in a computer class, they are more focused on getting a fixed objective, and that often is related to the technology. When it comes to a house of bots, or for that matter, any other online uh, cognitive app store or AI app store,
Mhm.
I
Right.
see
Right.
a developer as a facilitator in a large ecosystem. So,
Okay.
if this is a Diwali or a Christmas nearby, and a company wants to have a very quick turnaround time for improving customer feedback in terms of tracking
Mhm.
their packages, billing them correctly, preventing overload. So these are the cases when an artificial intelligence chatbot can take over the role of a normal help desk query. So
True. True.
if you are a programmer who can develop this, and it's pretty easy to develop based on
Mhm.
online platforms, and you have all the compliances like a security compliance, the data protection compliance, and all the stuff, then you can quickly put it up there and
Mhm.
get it monetized. But here
Mhm.
again, the Ankur's point comes very relevant, that you need to be noticeable, and uh, as you mentioned, you need to be very well versed in GitHub communities and how you can
Yes. Yes.
promote and put forth your ideas. I
Mhm.
have kept the tab open for House of Bots, and I was trying to see which companies, or are there any individual developers who are able to post a bot up there and still able to make sustenance. I still see the number pretty low, and this is an
Oh, okay.
international
Okay.
community, so we'll have all people from all over the
Mhm.
world trying to put an app up there. From an
Mhm.
India
Mhm.
perspective, I see good potential in regionalization. A lot of
Mhm. Mhm.
content in Hindi or in local Indian languages like Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi. These
Right.
are possible when it
Right.
comes to an internet-based app platform, both for
Mhm.
catering to urban and rural masses. And these can be informative content, can be weather related or agriculture related content, can be telemedicine kind of a content. So there is a potential for an House of Bots India version where you can put an app there and quickly monetize it. And if the app has integrations with other technologies or other applications, then it can quickly capture data. I'll give an example here. In India, telemedicine is in a very nascent stage, and I will be covering redefining rural India in a future episode of this podcast. How technology can impact how good experiences is delivered. It can be a simple photograph of an injured body part, which it can be scanned by a doctor abroad or away from that village. How a developer can quickly capture value from that, creating a simple camera app and then integrating it with the a Manipals or an Apollos or a Shankar Netralaya. So that the crucial golden hour saving people in that 1 hour of criticality is possible. So do they have that kind of breadth in understanding how their one potential application creates value for other? I don't know. Are they good in technology? Yes, they are. And are there technologies available that people can use very quickly and deploy? Yes. So there is these voids, I believe, that if they are filled, then from creation of content or creation of technologies, they can move towards monetization of those technologies and tap into the large Indian buying market. As we see a lot of companies coming into India and trying to put their application development center, global delivery center, and serving customers abroad, we see a huge potential in Indian customer service as well. Um, as a passing comment, the larger Indian healthcare market and the current insurance regulations and the new rule which is coming in, which provides 50,000 to up to from 50,000 to 3 lakh rupees worth of individual insurance cover, and the impact is up to 500 million Indians, which is the largest healthcare plan ever in the world. So insurance companies will have to bear the cost of such claims. So if they can encourage people to have preventive uh, healthcare practices, leading a healthy life, they can reduce the kind of costs they will incur against the premium. So whether you have a fitness app which can track both your food and pharmacy kind of bills, I don't know. But is there a potential? Yes. Can large company make and deploy it? Yes. But can a developer or a couple of developers come together and host such apps? I don't know. This is an area I think where we can see a lot of growth in India in potential coming 5 or 10 years.
Right. So there's a lot of opportunity. Yeah. Right.
Yes. So I have a question for you and Ankur here. So when we see an ecosystem and when we see that people should be able to at least monetize it and have a sustenance, from Indian perspective, do you see an integrated players coming into face here, or do you see retail or individual developers? And when I say integrated players, I mean companies which are both vertically integrated in terms of having the ability to create an app, create an ecosystem of their own, and thus lock out other players. Or do you see potential for people who are only piggybacking on existing mobile penetration and network and creating innovative app? How do you see that happening in India in the coming years? Ish, would you want to take this question?
No, I'm still thinking. I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, Naval, if you can also simplify this question, probably it will.
Yeah. So my question would be that as we see in a marketplace or any app store, when we see an individual person coming and developing an application, that's one way of seeing a future growth in India. And the second growth is when you have integrated companies which have their own ecosystem, which they have their own marketplaces and their apps, and they potentially lock out any rivals and then create the kind of a monopolistic structure do you see, which way do you see the market going in coming 5 to 10 years when it comes to Indian digital ecosystem? And
Well,
these can,
here the
yeah, and these can be for retail, banking, healthcare, any sector. How do you see these kind of digital ecosystem coming together?
no. So I think Naval, in line to the conversation that we were just having before this, as Mahesh raised the ethical practices of who owns the ownership, I think it is more to do with how the platform owners are, geared up for managing such kind of conflicts. Because if you ask me, it is a conflict. As long as your objective is to create a level playing field, you can't have people who are like integrated, big boys who come and disrupt uh, the whole objective of a healthy marketplace and create monopoly and stuff like that. I think it has to be led well by these owners, and there has to be a lot of best practices or the compliant practices in place to nurture. No, and this is irrespective of which time frame you look at, right? You look at it now or later, 5 years down the line, the ethics will should not change ideally, and the onus lies with the platform owners who create a compliant marketplace.
Yeah, my view is also about, I'm looking at it as a more social responsibilities which these marketplace owners would play, because going forward we're going to see a lot of solopreneurs, like individual developers, yeah, coming up in the market, who would
Very true.
want to operate as freelancers, who would be competent to develop apps or websites or themes or develop any product or service which are equally good, very disruptive as well, and they would like to sell it on different marketplaces, and it would become a social responsibility of these marketplace owners that they give as much freedom, as much flexibility uh, for these kind of sellers to compete and also thrive. Yeah, so I would probably look at these owners working along with the governments also, yeah, to create a wonderful ecosystem where everyone can coexist and thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you are a developer here, so
Hmm.
your role would be maybe to, and how do you differentiate from a company that has a team of developers? I think the latter is more integrated, has a better project management, has a better oversight, and continuous supply of resources, both financial and manpower. When you are an individual developer, how do you think they should go ahead in terms of maintaining their application development, or they should be, or should it be a part of their hobby? uh, can this be taken as a full-time effort? How do you see that happening, Mahesh?
It would obviously start as a hobby. Any person who begins as a freelance developer usually starts out as a hobby. And with time, they realize their potential, they realize they can monetize it really well, and they start doing it more at a full time basis. And when these freelance or individual developers start, monetizing their modules on the marketplaces, for a long time they may not be able to do it all alone, right? Because they have to collaborate. So if you're a developer, you will definitely be collaborating with a designer also somewhere. So it's about how they collaborate on the background with like-minded people, and show and put up their modules up on the marketplace, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, Mahesh, sorry, Ankur here. How do you see the entry barriers for any newcomer who is trying to set up their own kind of a virtual stall in the marketplace to sell items, uh, both from the payment gateway, from putting their stuff up? Do you think, is it easy at present in India? What are the problems they are facing? And we are seeing a lot of food delivery company coming up. We saw a lot of taxi aggregators coming up. So I see there is a lot of potential that both venture capitalists are seeing in Indian consumer market, Indian large middle class and affluent market. So how is the entry and exit barrier for entering that, for getting to eat that chunk of pie?
So I'm assuming your question is related to the discussion that we are having on for the digital marketplace, right?
Perfect. Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. So I feel the as a developer, if I am a developer, the fact that there are two objectives with which I'll go and list my or publish my apps on a particular platform. One is the kind of support system that I get, right? And thirdly, the reach. And imagine marketplace which basically solves both of the problem. If I'm getting a good reach and there is a proper validation criteria, and which basically
Mm-hmm.
bestows the faith in me that the owners validate whatever I submit, and which is actually true for all my counterparts also.
Mm-hmm.
That holds a key uh, decision making point, if
Mm-hmm.
you were to ask me, right?
And
uh,
so, sorry for interrupting here. So you are focusing more towards a managed marketplace. So if you are a Facebook app, Facebook should provide the developer guidance on how they can do better and stuff. Is that you are focusing on?
True. For example, let's get back to the payment thing that you're talking about. Consider the company like Ola or Uber. Now, the fact is that uh, as someone on the other side of the spectrum, or someone who's basically the supplier, the typically the drivers, the way they have organized the payment is amazing, right? Earlier, it was so unorganized for both the parties, the uh, the buyer as well as the supplier. Now, what Uber and Ola have done is that they have organized this whole payment system, so the driver doesn't need to worry about how his payment will be realized, or a small petty things like he doesn't have change and stuff like that, right? So everything is electronic, and and it gets settled after the stipulated period of time. So what it does is basically it gives a definitive way of realizing uh, the payment piece, and that's what is happening with these digital marketplaces also. So definitely it helps when you basically outsource the payment stuff to the platform, and you just focus on building good apps,
Mm-hmm.
is what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely it creates a value.
Mm-hmm. So it also focuses that one should do what one is good at, and
Yeah,
then it creates both mutual cooperation and uh, kind of a coexistence environment for everyone who are good in doing their own stuff.
very
True,
true.
true, true.
Mm-hmm. So, as I try to conclude this kind of discussion where we focus on how a marketplace uh, behaves when it's healthy, how it is supposed to be when it gets matured, and what are the expectations. So, if you were a marketplace owner, would you want your revenue to be distributed across a lot of incoming streams so that you are not dependent on particular app leaving your marketplace, because marketplace owner also gets a cut of that revenue, and it's in their interest to ensure vibrancy and a lot of people coming to their app store. If you are a
True.
Android app store or an Apple app store on phone or a desktop, and if I can give the example of a browser, the popularity of Chrome or Firefox became because they have hundreds of apps which can do small nifty things for you, and
Very
often
true.
they are free apps. So if you were an owner of a marketplace, or from that perspective, let's see, and how would you approach a developer, and what things would you do to make it easier for developers to thrive in that ecosystem, for both Ankur and Mahesh?
So let me take a shot at this novel first, Mahesh, if you allow me.
Yes, yes,
uh,
yes.
uh, my answer is very simple here. I will ask the developer to just focus on building good apps, and rest I will manage for him. That's with that promise I will build and invest in a platform which takes care of their validation, infrastructure, the payment issues, the outreach possibility, or creating a platform, creating an opportunity for them to outreach the right set of people, and so on and so forth. So if as an owner, I would rather focus on providing this kind of a support system to them, so that they build better apps, and which is actually at the end of it, it's useful for the uh, other side of my stakeholders, which are the users of the app, right? So I am actually creating a healthy environment for both the buyer and
So,
the seeker.
it's a good marriage of technology and marketing, isn't it, Ankur? So
Very true.
both technology and marketing have to come together for a developer to succeed.
Right.
Correct.
Uh,
Correct.
right.
Yeah, Mahesh.
Yeah. The way I would look at it, I would look at it like a venture capitalist, right? And if I have many startups who come under me, like who I'm going to fund, I'm obviously going to engage with startups and smaller organizations with a common intent. I'm going to obviously work with organizations with a common intent. And similarly, a marketplace owner also invests in players who are in line with a particular intent. And the way I'm looking at it is I'm going to invest on several startups, and some of them will do excellent, some of them will survive. Yeah. But to me, it's about how well they are all aligned towards the intent, playing by the common rules, which could be the ethics. Yeah. And to me, it's all about encouraging them towards the same intent. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it in real world, or in, say, in analog world, we have chambers of commerce which come together to
Right.
save the interests of businessmen, and they have a vocal voice at chambers of commerce so that they can run their business perfectly. There's some kind of a communication required, and those sellers, or so kind of developer come sellers, would be the kind of audience for a digital chamber of commerce where they can come and voice their opinion, the problems they are facing. And if there is a platform where they can come to get, say, very good ideas and suggestions for monetizing their product, I think they would flock to that platform. Uh,
That's a very good
Absolutely.
thought, Noel. That's a very good thought.
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So I have started using Chrome a lot. Before, I used to use Firefox, primarily because I use a lot of apps like a readability app, a printer app, or a lot of formatting options. Which browser is your favorite browser? If I can ask, Ankur, what is your favorite browser?
Of course, Chrome. Definitely Chrome.
And if I may ask, why is it? What is that it offers that maybe a Firefox or Internet Explorer doesn't?
No, no. So I'll tell you what. It is more to do with the stage of life I am in, and the when I adopted it, and the kind of flexibility that I have in mind to change my preferences. Look, so you have to also understand what stage of life someone is. So for a millennial, this might sound pretty weird that, hey, how can you stick to only single browser? But the generation where I belong to, the level of changes, even though we disrupted the baby boomers, but still, we are not millennials. So I have to, so I can answer in that way, that the comfort that it gives me, the speed at which it opens, the comfort, the kind of stuff that I can do, and of course the association of it being a part of the same group of Google. Somehow it has an impact on me as an end user or a consumer.
Right.
And which browser do you use? Which is your favorite browser, Mahesh?
Well, I've been a open source guy for a long time. So the laptop I use, it's a Linux. I use Linux, and the browser I use is Firefox. So I like it. It's pretty fast, yeah,
Yeah,
lightweight, and yeah.
the latest one, Firefox Phantom, is really fast. It's a great update over
Right, right.
the Mozilla. So yes.
Yeah, I think been using Firefox for a long time now, so I've liked it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. So when I see these ecosystems or digital marketplace coming over and creating opportunities in India, I believe that this discussion would be so important because we need to see whether developers can sustain themselves when they are faced with a challenge of re-evaluating their roles, where they are working at present, or the new ways they can monetize their current work. uh, do you see regionalization and personalization becoming more? When I say regionalization, I mean local content in Indian languages. And second is giving a user specific content. Are these two areas where developers should also be looking into, apart from the regular technologies like computer technologies like a Java or a .NET or C Sharp? Would these be areas that they should be focusing on?
I think regionalization and localization definitely would play its part, given the fact that the pace at which the technology adoption is growing in tier one, tier two cities as well, right? So one is that it creates immense opportunity for a developer to have a better outreach or a deeper outreach to markets lesser known till about now, and hyperlocal strategy also. Uh, from the marketing point of view, hyperlocal works because of the relevance, right? So similarly, if you look at the localization or the regionalization strategy for a developer, it'll create a lot of relevance for the adoption or the buying of their products, typically the apps in these markets. And I definitely feel that's the way forward. You look at a lot of these voice search engines, they are now focusing on multilingual. The fact that it's also it substantiates the fact that the reach is gonna be a little deeper in places where it was not there earlier, and that's India for you, and that's the real India for you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Mahesh, which technology again? In the last podcast before we ended, I had asked you which language would you propose for a developer to start learning their or start their digital journey. So you spoke about object oriented and C++ as the best place to start, and then mature. When it comes to deploying their apps on say on a WordPress, or maybe using a couple of themes or putting it up there on App Store, which technology would you propose them to start learning, or where should they start their um, digital journey from when it comes to
Right.
digital marketplaces?
Right. The way right now the Java is mandatory. You have to know Java. Begin with Java. Learn JavaScript, because the current technologies using which we are developing websites or apps, they're right now based on either AngularJS or React Native, both which use different flavors or depths of JavaScript. So whatever it is, you're going to get into JavaScript eventually. So begin with Java, be really competent at Java. Learn next, take up JavaScript, and then get into the AngularJS and React Natives, which have its own variants.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any learning platforms to suggest where they can start this learning?
So Udemy is the place. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Udemy, and of course, collaborate on GitHub. Those are my, keeping it very simple. That's where they need to be.
Perfect, perfect. So Ankur, when it comes to a developer to have a more holistic picture on how they would want to take their app ahead, or to see a large company in the making and all this, do you have any suggestions where they can start learning or reading at least to broaden their horizons?
From a technology point of view, I might not be the right person to answer this, but yes, from the market.
From the marketing perspective, so if they want to see a larger picture away from just technology, the developer wants to learn how to monetize it, or what can be the future of what they're working at present on. So it's a merger of technology and marketing. Are there any good sites or journals or places where they can come and read something?
I think in that case, Google is the key. Yeah, because I'll tell you what, the way I keep abreast of the the latest in any technology or a marketing or any new tech thing, which I personally do, is I just Google. I don't follow a particular site, because what happens that sometimes you get some amazing stuff on a Twitter if you follow a particular hashtag, right? If you just type a hashtag or a search term, you get some great articles there. Or sometimes it's available on Facebook. Sometimes there are a lot of publishers like Mashable, or Search Engine Land, or marketing profs, and so on and so forth. So there's nothing fixed, and I would advise that to the audience the same way, that let Google be your guiding guru, or any search engine for that matter, just in case I take an unbiased stance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Fair enough. So, a good conversation here, Ankur and Mahesh. We started with understanding how a digital marketplace exists, what it can be when it's healthy, what it needs to be from the administrator's perspective, what are the aspirations and hopes of a developer if they want to scale up, what technology they should be focusing on, and finally, what they should be learning. Do you have any further parting comments before we wrap up this show for developers on where they can find you and what you are currently working on?
Well, I am a marketer, so I keep on helping various kinds of brands or startups or mid-sized company in achieving their objectives using digital marketing. I'm usually accessible on LinkedIn. That's the reason I my introduction has that link. Or feel free to get in touch with me just in case if you feel you need some suggestions on the marketing stuff. With respect to the parting comment as a part of the podcast, I would say that there's a huge opportunity for the developer community here today. So I think they should not shy away from exploring this side of the business apart from their regular work, is what I can say.
Mm-hmm. And Mahesh?
Well, I think I haven't told about myself the last time, and I repeat, I'm a person who is always passionate about three things: people, process, and technology. So I keep writing. My profession is also an amalgamation of these three areas. Uh, I usually keep writing about it or tweeting about it. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Mahesh Sheshadri, and also through my Twitter handle, Mahesh Sheshadri. So we can always discuss about things which you would like to learn about. Um, right? And what else? I think I forgot my parting comment. Right?
Yeah,
Sorry.
parting comments for developers. Yeah.
Oh, parting comment for developers. I think open up, guys. Share a lot. There's lots to learn, and the learning will happen only when you share and start being entrepreneurial. If you're going in that path, and if you're also part of an organization, start being an entrepreneur as well. So start doing things on your own. Start monetizing, and with time, I'm
There's a
sure it will be wonderful.
there's a value for everyone.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Mahesh, and thank you, Ankur, for joining in today's podcast. It
Thank you,
would be
Naveen.
Thank you. And if you are listening these podcasts, dear listeners, it would be somewhere around 18th of February, and we would be airing this on SoundCloud. The Twitter handle at In Conversation With, and would be on the video promo. Thank you so much, and
Thank
keep
you.
coding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.